Good evening, everyone, and welcome to session 6 of IBA's 614 Global Marketing. In today's session, we will be having a classroom case discussion. Now, this classroom case discussion will be based on the theory that we learned in our 2 previous sessions, where we discussed the importance of marketing research and marketing intelligence in global marketing strategy, as well as the importance of the STP process, which is made up of segmentation, targeting, and positioning, and how it can influence global marketing strategy and decision-making. In this session, to aid our discussion, we will be watching 3 video cases that are set in various contexts around the world to help us practicalize the theory that we have learned in our 2 previous sessions. Before we go ahead and watch the videos, I would like to give credit to CNBC, who are responsible for creating and producing these videos to aid in our academic discussion today. So let's get right into the videos. Our first video will be on Africa and it being hailed as the next big market. Let's watch.
When Jack Dorsey, the founder and CEO of Twitter and Square, told people he was moving to Africa for a few months in 2020, it raised some eyebrows in Silicon Valley. After all, tech companies have consistently looked to China and India when they talked about reaching vast, untapped populations who are slowly coming online and needing smartphones, cloud computing, and mobile payment infrastructure. But it turns out in 2020, that sounds a lot more like Africa rather than China or India. For years, it was known derogatively as the Dark Continent, while colonialism and general ignorance about Africa's people skewed perceptions. Even today, if you listen to American media cover Africa, you mostly hear about famine, Ebola, and violence from militant groups. And while countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have had to deal with a recent spate of extremist violence, Africa is a big continent, and much of it is open for business. Today, Africa has more than 600 active technology hubs, organizations with a local address, facilities, and support for tech and digital entrepreneurs. That's up from 442 in 2018. Big tech companies from the US have noticed and are beginning to focus more and more on Africa as the next big market. Africa is home to 54 countries and a population of more than 1.3 billion people. And according to the UN's World Population Prospects of 2019, that's expected to explode to 4.3 billion by the start of the next century. The African population also remains young, very young. The median age in 2020 is projected to be under 20 years old. In 2019, 6 of the top 15 fastest growing economies in the world were projected to be in Africa, according to Focus Economics. The list includes Ethiopia at 1, Rwanda at 2, the Ivory Coast at 5, Tanzania at 10, Senegal at 12, and Ghana at 15. African startups last year raised $2.02 billion in equity funding. That's a new milestone, according to global investing firm Partech Africa's 2019 report on VC funding for African startups. Ben Lynette is a venture capitalist in San Francisco. His company, Lynette Capital, invests in African startups. One of Lynette's investments is in Flutterwave, which provides payment solutions for companies like Uber.
I'm really optimistic from a general standpoint that tech-enabled startups can be the driving force, that has historically been lacking at building a lot of this basic infrastructure, allowing people to get into the middle class.
Last year, the African Continental Free Trade Area was formed with the goal of creating a single market on the continent and dealing with the ongoing issues like infrastructure and bureaucracy. The agreement couldn't have come at a better time, since many believe the continent is poised to take off. According to the London-based think tank Future Agenda, Africa's total GDP could hit 2.6 trillion this year. And GDP growth is projected to accelerate to 4.1% by 2021, according to the African Development Bank. With a growing middle class, that number could easily head higher as the continent tackles its lack of critical infrastructure. Only 43% of the population has access to electricity, and internet penetration on the African continent is only about 40% as compared to the more than 60% of the rest of the world. Infrastructure is one reason, but another is cost. American tech companies know this, but so does China. The country's Belt and Road Initiative demonstrates how serious China is about helping African countries develop the roads and travel infrastructure necessary to grow businesses. In 2017, there were more than 200,000 Chinese citizens working under contract in Africa, according to the Johns Hopkins China-Africa Research Initiative. And they worked on ports, pipelines, power plants, and railways. At the same time, a number of US technology companies were working to gain a foothold in Africa, and some of the locals are trying to make it easier. David Osei is the CEO of Silicon Accra, a 60-acre technology park he's building in Accra, Ghana. The park will include residential and retail units, as well as recreational facilities. It will also house the African Institute of Mathematical Sciences. The park will open in 2022, but he's already talking to large American tech companies about locating there when it's fully complete in 2023.
Africans, we love Americans because when an American comes to do a partnership with you, they leave knowledge behind. They leave you with experience. They leave you with empowerment. I'm not saying that we don't get that with the Chinese necessarily, but I'm saying that we are yet to have that model from the Chinese. We see the Americans coming in willing to participate, willing to trade. So we want Americans to come to the party, or else they will come and realize that it's a little bit too late, because Africa is growing exponentially.
At the same time, companies need qualified workers to fill positions on the continent, but that is improving as well. Charles Lava is the head of GMEA, a Ghana-based tech group that works with fintech, manufacturing, and oil industries. Lava has worked with tech giants like HP and Cisco for the last 25 years. He says when he first went into business in 1990, finding qualified people was difficult. That's beginning to change though.
And so did actually quite a few other people in Ghana who have come in, who have been educated outside, come back to Ghana.
The end result is a larger pool of qualified people and increased dependence on technology.
The challenge about coming to Africa is really finding the right partners who's going to collaborate with you. And we still have our challenges in terms of the policies and in terms of creating a truly conducive business environment which actually respects the rule of law.
Big tech understands that, and it's already begun to maneuver. In November 2019, Twitter founder and Square CEO Jack Dorsey announced he would be moving to Africa. Analysts who cover Square weighed in on the move, saying Africa was untapped and underserved, that the region was the future of payments, and that Dorsey's move was forward-thinking.
Jack, I think, is looking at Africa as a huge growth vector for the company. I think if you ask him, his perspective will ultimately be around users and revenue. And then lastly, I think he's got a view that he has to figure out some way to decrease the hiring pressure here in San Francisco. And so by creating a more remote workforce, and he may lead by example.
In fact, mobile payments and social media are how big tech hopes to gain traction on the continent. Online retailer Jumia offers a cautionary tale about opening a consumer-facing business in Africa. After much fanfare, it became the first African tech firm to list on the New York Stock Exchange in April 2019. But the company has hit a rough patch and has been forced to close offices in Cameroon and Tanzania. After hitting a peak valuation of near $4 billion, Jumia's market cap has fallen to just over $440 million. US tech companies know the potential in Africa, and they're well aware of the potential pitfalls. So many of them are making significant investments on the continent. Microsoft arrived in Africa in 1992, but it wasn't until 2013 that it launched the For Africa initiative, its business and marketing development engine on the continent.
From healthcare to agri-tech to fintech, there's really been quite a bit of investment that has been landing across the continent, but also just innovation, local innovation that is taking off as well in different markets. And look, different markets are at different stages as we look at it, but the opportunity for scalability of some of the solutions is actually quite there.
Microsoft is looking to promote its cloud technology, which it says will provide a number of benefits. Entrepreneurs will be able to deliver new services to market faster. Businesses will become smarter and make more data-driven decisions. Governments will be more transparent, efficient, and accountable, which improves local climate for business. And every citizen will have access to key services. But you have to have critical infrastructure, and more than one tech giant is focused on providing it.
Facebook's biggest problem of reaching all of its users is getting them on the internet cheaply. So what do? They help enable startups that are building cheap internet.
To that end, Facebook, Airtel Uganda, and BSC worked to complete a 770-kilometer network in northwest Uganda to bring mobile broadband to some 3 million people. In South Africa, the social networking company worked with Vast to connect with the underserved communities through Wi-Fi. And in Nigeria, it teamed up with Main One to build out 750 kilometers of fiber. Last year, the Wall Street Journal reported that Facebook was in talks to lay an underwater cable that would go around the entire continent and drive down the cost of bandwidth. The project is known as Simba, for the Lion King character. Meanwhile, Google has its own plan called Equiano, named after the Nigerian-born abolitionist and writer who was a slave when he was a boy. The plan would connect Portugal to South Africa. The first phase of the project is slated for completion next year. Google also has a number of initiatives across Africa, including Google for Startups, which announced last September it had started its first Africa immersion cohort. It was a 12-week program meant to share expertise with tech startups from Africa. One of the companies they worked with is called Quora, which provides online and mobile banking services for financial institutions and members. Amazon has been in Africa since 2004, when the company opened its development center in Cape Town. The center focused on networking technologies and customer support software. In 2015, the company continued to expand with an office in Johannesburg. 2 years later, Amazon introduced AWS Direct Connect to Africa. Available in every country in Africa since 2016, Netflix is now programming to its audience. Queen Sono is a crime drama series coming in February 2020, and it's its first African original series. It features South African actress Pearl Thusi. More African shows have been commissioned from South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria. In late 2018, the countries in Africa signed an agreement to develop the African Continental Free Trade Area, an agreement the director of the International Trade Center called a game changer.
Africa is taking off, and it's a good time to be involved in the transition of Africa as 54 different countries to Africa as a one continent on trade. This year, we are launching the African Continental Free Trade, which is a very big deal because all 54 African countries have agreed to now have a trade deal. Now, this is not just a trade deal on paper, but it's going to be trade that is going to transcend goods and services and intellectual properties.
In November 2019, the African Union met in Ethiopia to discuss its goals for its member states. The AU also wants to promote continuing education in Africa by creating a virtual university that will allow students to access from anywhere in the world. And it's also adopted cybersecurity as a flagship program to ensure that these technologies are used for the benefit of African individuals, institutions, and nation states by ensuring data protection and safety online. African leaders, it seems, also know the importance of internet connectivity and are taking steps to improve it. Elon Musk, who's from South Africa, isn't going to wait. In January of 2020, Musk's company SpaceX launched another rocket containing 60 Starlink satellites. Musk hopes to have 700 in orbit by mid-year, and to create a mega constellation designed to provide low-cost internet to underserved regions, like rural America and Africa, even as the continent's demographics are changing. Consulting firm McKinsey projects that half of the populace in Africa will live in cities by 2030, which will help increase overall internet access.
My experience has been very positive in terms of how big tech interacts with these startups, and as I've said, how they rely on them in a lot of ways. And it would be easy to paint the picture of colonization 2.0, but the reality is we're still so early, and we need, as a continent, I think it needs all the focus and energy and resources that it can get at this stage, and we're far away from it being a competition type environment on the basis of there's just so much to do.
Africa is becoming seamless, slowly becoming, we're not there yet. I mean, they do have all these policies at a certain place where it's going to be open borders, open economies, open movement, and that's going to change all the dynamic massively. This inevitably has to happen, and I actually think if we Africans don't step in and make the best of it, we're not going to get anywhere. And so I think inevitably and organically we have to grow.
Okay, so that was it for our first video case, which was on Africa, the next big market. Now, after going through this case, I think this is the first time you are going through it, but I watched it prior to us watching it together in class, and it made so many things clear to me about the new direction that the STP process is going in with regards to contemporary marketing strategy. But before we get there, my first question to you, which we are going to discuss today, is how does Africa constitute an attractive segment? Why are they choosing to make Africa a whole continent made up of over 50 countries, one market segment? What makes the continent a segment? Because generally, when you think of segmentation, you're thinking about breaking the market into smaller pieces. But here they are focusing on a whole continent of 54 countries and treating them as one market segment. Why is this so? And why is this smart? Anyone?
Doc.
Yes, Doc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Godwin, please go ahead.
So I would say that because of the demography being the average age of Africans being 20 years, sends a very good signal that there is prospect here that if things are set up well, it is the next best place to do business. Because if your business thrives, then you're going to reach, I think we are 1.3 billion. So that is a very huge market that is not already, concentrated that they can take advantage of.
Okay, that's a good submission, Godwin. But I am asking now as like a marketer who is being a bit paranoid here. Isn't this 20 million age for the entire Africa an overestimation?
I find it a little weird too.
Yeah. Michael, you want to chime in here?
Yes, let me attempt an answer.
Yeah.
I think even if you watch the video, they said that the whole of Africa is more like an untapped continent.
Exactly.
And so when it comes to business and growth, if I'm a business person and I have a worldwide or I have a very big organization, I will look at Africa as a whole, because clearly it's not just one country that is almost the whole of Africa has the same challenge. And so if I were a business person, that is how I look at it. The whole continent is untapped. The technology, even if you look at technology, as compared to Europe and the rest of Africa, the rest of the world, ours is quite low. And so if I'm a smart businessman, that is how I'll look at it. I'll look at the whole of Africa as one big segment and not individual countries.
Okay, that's a good submission. Thank you, Michael. That's one way to look at it. Lucy, what do you think?
First, before I go, I believe that the Western world has not actually studied the African market trade. They only see a Black person as an African. They don't know the segregation. So that is why they go that way. And with the AFTA coming in, they feel it will be easier to move around with your goods because we are going to have free trade among the countries in Africa.
Yeah.
I believe that they need to really do a lot of research because we have different trades. As somebody who said, the Nigerians and Ghanaians have different taste preferences. So if you want to take Africa as a one continent, you might not be able to survive completely if you don't have to learn the culture of every country. But I believe that they are coming from that angle because of the AFTA, because they feel that it will be easier to trade with other countries without barriers. So they are seeing it as a one country, one segment. That is it.
Yeah. That's another great way to look at it. Thank you, Lucy. Karen, you want to come in?
I also wanted to say that I think besides being a continent that has not been tapped well, the median age is around 20 years, which is a very active year for every business.
Yeah.
They are the most interested in tech and interested in everything. So they have cheap labor besides everything else that comes with that median age.
Yeah. That's another good point. Thank you, Karen. Chief.
Yeah, Doc. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I would like to go with what Michael said. because you listen to the statistics, and Africa, even power, access to electricity, it's not everybody who has access to internet. It's not everybody who has. Therefore, the major thing that Africa needs is a whole solution.
Yeah.
Not before you go to the individual solutions.
Yeah.
So it's as a businessman or as a marketer, I'll look at it as a holistic solution to them before you come to break it down and look at the segmentation.
Yeah.
So that's
is it because you are saying there are similarities in terms of the challenges?
Exactly. It cuts across from north to south, west, east and west. We all have the same problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have the same problem. So if you're a business person coming to Africa, you will come and give, for example, West Africa, we don't have railway connectivity amongst ourselves.
Even the ones that were recently built in Ghana, I heard have been washed away by the rains.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
So that is what the Chinese people are doing. They are in Eastern Europe and Eastern Africa and Central Africa. They are providing railway connectivity all the way.
Yeah.
So that's a complete solution.
Yeah.
Before they will come and look at the individual countries' needs.
Yeah.
But for now, you look at Africa as a whole market and provide a particular solution.
Yeah. Another great submission. Thank you, Chief. Sylvia.
Yes, Doc. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Please go ahead. Yes, please.
I think I lean along the lines of Michael and then, of course, Evans. But not to say that we have the same problems, but we have similar problems.
Yeah, that's true.
So much as we have similar problems, there's a lot of differences within the continent as well.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of times, that is what we lose sight of in terms of the differences.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times we are seen and taken as this one big, continent, and for that matter, a lot of things are almost like the same. But that is usually not the case. And I think the point Lucy made about continuous research, it's very important in this process.
Yeah.
But the actual point I wanted to make is that I think there is some overemphasis on the promises of the free continental, trade area.
One of my main issues.
Okay, so I am very positive about it as a person.
Yes.
And I think that I get a sense, especially when in my work, actually with ECOWAS and African Union, about some level of excitement, which is to me sounds like which doesn't exist.
Premature.
Exactly. Very premature level of excitement amongst people when you hear the conversation around this particular
subject. Not to cut you. When the AFCFTA first came up, I called Dr. Ifua Sabiasari and I was like, hey, your work is about to increase. You know what she told me? She said, ECHO was crying, implementing really.
Exactly. That is the biggest thing, because there is absolutely what you said, so much premature excitement.
Yeah.
And without considering the hurdles that exist already and the ones that we are likely to face.
Yeah.
For me, the basic one is even the biggest bureaucracy that exists within, the context of the work with ECOWAS as well as the African Union, which is totally different from the culture that exists across board.
Yeah.
Or around the globe. So there's so vast a difference in terms of culture when it comes to some of these things. And beyond that, there's harmonization of regulations that's got to be, there's a lot of things that got to be put in place for this to hit the way we expect it. But unfortunately, we are not seeing it that way. It's as if we are just putting it all in one jacket and thinking that it would kind of fit as it is done elsewhere. And I think that that's what I wanted to bring to the fore on the subject, because it's exciting. Even from the video, you see the sense of excitement with the free trade area and all of that. Unfortunately, that is not what happens on the ground.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for that excellent submission. Sally, you want to come in?
Yes, Doc.
Please go ahead.
I think in addition to what all my colleagues have said, from a market let's say, frontier point of view,
Yeah.
Expanding into frontiers, I think Africa is a fertile ground.
Yeah.
I think at the opening of the clip, it was said that Africa was considered as the dark continent.
Yeah.
Now, for those organizations that are usually technology driven,
yeah,
they would want to tap into new markets where they see possibilities of moving away from their already existing saturated markets.
That's true.
So if you take organizations like MTN, that made a deliberate effort towards increasing telephone access and internet connectivity across Africa, their concentration is on emerging markets. So they don't go into developed economies.
Yeah.
MTN had one operation in Europe, which was in Cyprus.
Yeah.
But because they realized that that was an outlier, that entity was sold out, I think, about 3 years back, so that they can concentrate on Africa and an emerging market. So I'm sure somebody like Jack Dorsey has seen that looking at smartphone penetration that is across Africa, it's under 30%. There are very few individual countries like Ghana, like South Africa, like some parts of Nigeria that would have internet penetration of up to about 40%. So that is a huge fertile ground.
That's true.
And that is why Google also continuously is investing in infrastructure to make sure that they increase connectivity pan-Africa.
Yeah.
So once Africa becomes connected, then the African consumer would also be seen as a global consumer. And then those organizations will now target those up and coming, 20-year-olds,
yes,
and invest in whatever activity that they want to get them deliver on. So yes, indeed, I think Africa is going to be a next big market if all these infrastructures are put in place to make life easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that submission, Salute. Very true. Ellen, you want to come in?
Yes. I think I agree with Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
There's that perception that we have certain trade arrangements
Yeah.
that make it a border-free continent. So you
Yeah.
can look as a whole. And I noticed that all these companies can afford to have such a big market segment.
Yeah.
But if they're segmenting to target people to provide for, that means you do have the resources to provide for them. So to look at Africa as a whole, that means they also have those resources that are that allow you to look at everyone as one segment.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Thank you very much, Ellen, for that submission. Kwame Akwa, please come in. Kwame.
Hello, dog. Please, sorry for my hand is up. Sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand.
Oh, okay. Lucy, please go ahead.
I wanted also to stress on what I said first, because if you see, I believe that a lot of companies have come into the Africa and they've not been able to succeed. Something like Junior, because they want to treat the whole Africa as a single market.
Exactly.
So they want to do everything they feel they do in country A,
exactly.
But it doesn't work like that. So it's high time they look at it. That is why most companies have come and they have gone, because some of them have had culture shocks. Some of them have had disappointment because what they believe. So no, we are on top, and most of the problems are, let's say, similar in different countries.
Yeah.
To solve those problems in different countries, it doesn't go on a one-lane approach.
That's true.
Different approach, as Sylvia said, the bureaucracy and so many things to solve the same problem.
Yeah.
When your water problem in Ghana, it might be easier. You go to Nigeria, it might not be easy. So if you're looking at Africa, this big continent, as a one marketplace and should be treated similarly.
Yeah.
We are going wrong. And I'm also trying, he didn't state where he got his data from. I'm trying to see whether I can get the data to ascertain where he said that.
Yeah.
The demography of Africa is 20 years.
Yeah. he mentioned the organization that he got the data from. I think I'll put the video in the Google Drive after the lecture so that you can like peruse it further and then break down all the information in it.
And then for the 20 years, their idea is that they're going to get cheap labor and a lot of people to work for them.
Yeah, but funny enough, when it comes to the cheap labor argument, I doubt it, because one thing they said emphatically was that the nature of labor even on the continent is changing, with even more highly skilled hands coming in. So that means that the more skilled they are, the more expensive the labor becomes.
It's true. It's true. Well, because I think the skill set, because you know China was choking because though they had a lot of labor, their labor was skilled.
Exactly.
But in Africa, they are not skilled. So I think that is where they bypass it. But now that the skill set is coming in, they believe that they can tap our knowledge to be able to do it. Because a lot of Africans are doing things. If you see our young people, even with this coronavirus, you see that the young people are innovating. They realize that we have brains to innovate, though we don't have the equipment and the facilities to be able to learn to improve. We are able to be innovative. So when we are giving that, we will be innovative, and they are trying to be able to take advantage of us quickly before we become self-aware.
Yeah, that's true.
Ourselves. That is what I feel.
Yeah. Thank you for that submission, Lucy. Godwin, you want to come in?
Yes, I wanted to say that I am a little skeptical about this whole Africa, the next big market.
My sentiments exactly.
These guys, they think when you look at America as a whole, from the East Coast to the West Coast is similar. When you go to Europe, the whole continent feels quite similar.
Yeah.
But the Africa ball game is completely different.
Exactly.
And I think that sometimes they think that because of their new technology and stuff, so they can sort of have transparency and like things will fall in place easily and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like Sophia is saying, look at ECOWAS, how we are even struggling amongst ourselves to do things.
Yeah.
You see, so I am skeptical. I know they can do research and all those things, but when it comes to their ground, when the metal hits the wood, it's a different thing. But all the best to them.
Yeah.
All the best to them.
Yeah. Thank you, Godwin. Michael, please, you have the floor.
Yes, I had to come in again.
Yeah.
Now, it's two things. One, again, even though they were looking at Africa as one big whole, there was still some level of segmentation.
Okay.
Even in the video, if you look at all the companies that featured in the video, all of them are within, or they are serving a particular region.
Yeah.
So let's say one of the companies was serving the East African market. The other one was talking about the West African market.
Yeah.
Even though they would generalize it and say that, well, there are prospects for the whole of Africa.
Yeah.
But so they are looking at two things at the same time.
Exactly.
And if you look at what Microsoft, for instance, wanted to do, they started with a region, like the West African region, and now they intend to take over the whole of Africa by building something that would serve the whole of Africa.
Yeah.
And let's face it, if it comes to internet, why would you want to, segment and do it country by country? Internet is internet.
Yeah.
So if whether you intend to be in Ghana or in Nigeria, if you can serve the whole of Africa with internet.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do it, region by region or country by country?
In fact, what you have mentioned is one of the key things that was my point of concern. Because first of all, I thought the whole thing was just an overgeneralization. Because you realize that most of the discussion that took place was mainly in terms of technology. So I was expecting them to limit their generalizations to the technology industry.
Exactly.
Because so far, really reaching too far.
Yes. Yeah. And all that they have said, it's all about technology. Nothing more.
Exactly.
It's just technology alone,
So they should have limited their arguments there. Thank you very much, Mike, for noticing that. Saliu, please come in. Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I think I was going to make that point.
Yeah.
That is, in as much as they see Africa as a big market, there's a lot of segmentation that happens for the corporations that intend coming into Africa to work. They understand the dynamics.
And these are technology companies.
Exactly, for technology-driven companies.
Good.
Now, in terms of technology, they look at it from a numbers point of view.
Exactly, and with the numbers, they are spot on.
Exactly. So with the numbers, it's a perfect market, and that's why Jack Dorsey will leave San Francisco in California and come and tour the entirety of Africa for 6 months.
Yeah.
In order to understand the people, in order to understand the culture,
yeah.
so that when they are implementing, the implementation might be Pan-Africa, but there would be some specific nuances that would be customized to certain markets.
That's true.
So they look at the market in its, maybe let's say in a market capitalization point of view, but when the strategy for entry is not going to be mass. If you take Uber, the strategy that Uber used in entering the African market, it was a very gradual process, and they are still piloting in several African countries. So once they see that it's something that would generate a lot of bottom line for them, then they would roll it out en masse.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Saliu, for that. Godwin, you want to come in again?
Yes, for my last take on this. So I'm thinking, you see, anytime a white man wants to give you something, what is in it for them? Why do they want to do this? Apart from just the fact that, okay, market, everything. But what is really behind their, because these people, I can't trust them.
Good. And that is where I come in with what I have discovered with regard to the next level of the STP process in terms of contemporary marketing. Now, you realize that they said that these companies are moving in, but they realized one critical thing. The infrastructure is not up to par. So what are they doing? They are establishing the infrastructure themselves. So whoever establishes it, that's what owns it. And whoever owns it, once it becomes big, is the controller.
So
they are targeting not because they have seen what is there currently, but because they have seen what will happen in the future.
That is it.
And they are laying the foundations to make sure that they own whatever the basis of that boom is going to be in future.
Exactly.
And I think with regards to segmentation and targeting, this is like genius. And this is a new marketing strategy that I think as marketers have to start thinking about. Because these days, like we were talking about a moment ago, the developed markets are already developed. There's nothing new to find. Africa is the in thing. But we don't have everything that they need to build on. So what do? We create it and we own it.
Own the whole Africa, that's it.
Exactly. Right? So it's about who is fast enough now.
Exactly.
So Microsoft started in the West, Facebook started somewhere else. Elon Musk took over from the South, and they are going. So it's about divide and conquer.
God help us.
This is genius strategy, government. And it only takes the sharp mind of a marketer to crunch these figures. That's why they say every CEO must be a marketer, because if you are not using intelligence to think this far, you'll be left behind.
That's it. And then now that they are starting, those who come in are going to be the ones who are going to make it the best. That's it. And the latecomers, by the time they come, everything is taken already.
Exactly.
That's why I feel sad for, you see, us as Africans, because these guys are going to bring monies and everything. And let's look into our culture. When our people see money, they don't see our fellow brethren. They look at white people and give them everything. So what really is this thing going to benefit we as Africans truly? The person walking on the street. So it's quite
Gordon. Ivan, sorry to interrupt you. You made a statement that I don't like. It is not only Africans that when they see money.
Yes. It's true.
Advanced countries. That statement, I want you to draw. Everybody likes money. Thank you. Thank you.
I believe that before we become aware that we ourselves want to venture and invest in such a places, we will need to buy it off from this foreign.
Yeah, and we may have to pay more than it actually costs.
We have to pay more than, and then it comes like the vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Of poverty, where we need to always fight for something.
Exactly. Meanwhile, it was ours to begin with.
Because they have realized, because the innovative things that are coming out of Africa by the young people in the villages coming up with things and all that, they realize that, yes, so they are either going to use our brains, tap into us and take over, buy the how do you call it, the rights to most of the things. Then when we are ready to come in, then we need to pay them a huge amount.
It will be too expensive to buy.
Sultana, your hand is up. Thank you, Lucy. Oh,
yeah. From what you all said, no, something small. After they come in to invest and all, for me, I think that that's a perfect opportunity for Africa to revenge, so that we simply pass a law of nationalization and nationalize all the companies and to solve the problem.
We have enough machinery like Donald Trump claims he has.
Of course, we will. The next set of leaders coming from Africa are going to be very radical. Huh? So we'll nationalize all these companies and they'll go empty-handed.
What you are saying sounds simple, but think about the government. These things don't just happen like that.
That is why I said that
the government is also looking at things. So
don't worry at all. We'll create the situation and we'll just nationalize everything.
It's
all
not
things
easy.
being
We may need about 3 or 4 JJ Rollins to pull this one off.
By the way, it's just on the lighter side. It's just on the lighter side.
And Doc, that wouldn't even be easy.
Exactly.
We all know what they did to Gaddafi.
Exactly.
Gaddafi wasn't a bad man, but he was
just fighting for what was originally ours.
Yes.
And
he wanted to liberate us, but they didn't give him that space.
Look at what we are doing in South Africa.
Mugabe had his own share.
Yeah. And
so we all condone and South Africa, yes?
Yes, you see, South Africa, they are just a church piece of white people controlling the whole thing, and the blacks can still take control of their country.
Yeah.
And that is what we are going to risk if we are not careful. That is.
Yeah. That's true. That's very
true. Almighty China, look at the way America want to tackle them. Exactly. Almighty China.
Exactly.
To be like the
Chinese is in for a big struggle in the years ahead, unless our leaders are able to take control of what is happening, which looks like a mad rush for the base infrastructure and the foundational resources. By the time we realize, they would have just taken everything from under our noses, and we'll have to pay them for what was originally ours. That is my main problem with this whole situation.
I think the best approach is to use the Asian type. You indoctrinate your children from school.
Good.
To like what they have.
Good.
Very true.
To be more nationalistic. So that when they grow up, they will behave safe.
Yeah.
And when we train them to like everything foreign, we will never get there.
That's true.
Americans like what is American.
Yeah.
Japanese like what is Japanese.
That's true.
But Ghanaians don't even know what we like. We like American, Japanese.
We like
the local things. We want
of what you are saying. Do you realize
that's why I love my Kantanka?
The case told us that the actual markets that they are targeting is the young people. The medium is 20. So they are targeting the young people.
Yes.
Currently,
and then indoctrinate them again.
Exactly. So if these are the people they are targeting, the way you are saying we are able to indoctrinate them, they are the best chance we have.
That is, they are the future. They are the future.
Coconut oil was made in Ghana here, and this lady will not buy. And she saw
America. They import it from US and use it.
She said it was American made. I said no, it's a Ghanaian made. The factory is in Ghana. She said no. I bought 2 boxes from America. I have 2 boxes. Where did you get it from? So I had to pick the bottle and show her this is made in Ghana. The factory is in Takrady. She was like,
"You not buy it again."
She bought it, but it was for her. It was good. So now she's buying it again. But she thought it was an American thing. So she traveled to America, bought it at a higher price, and came back because the packaging, packaging is very good, and the product is very good. So you see, this is what we are saying. We love everything for it. The near father was in Ghana here. The person didn't buy it. When she went out, she saw it on the counter. She bought and brought it back.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
We should patronize our things. As he said, when we act like the Chinese and the Asians, we start training our children to like what we have. And I think the coronavirus should be able to help us to do that if we take advantage of it.
Borders are closed. It's the best opportunity. I agree with you totally. Yeah. So, anyone with any final words before we move on to our next case? Sylvia, or you're good?
I'm good.
Yeah, we are good. We are good. Next case.
Awesome. All right. So our next case is on Domino's Pizza in India. So let's quickly watch the video and then we come back and have our discussion.
Domino's is crushing it in India. It entered the country in 1995, and since then, it's expanded rapidly. There are over 1,300 Domino's across 282 cities in India, and its footprint continues to grow.
Domino's has a market share of more than 70%.
Domino's in India is even testing delivery in 20 minutes or less. That's made it difficult for Pizza Hut and Papa John's to compete. And even local Indian pizza rivals haven't been able to match Domino's success. So what is Domino's doing that is so different from the competition? It's localized its product offerings, but probably the biggest differentiator, just like in the US, Domino's is winning the pizza war in India because it offers fast delivery and sophisticated ordering technology. Domino's success has made it more difficult for other chains to flourish. Papa John's left India in 2017, closing 66 stores according to its 2017 financial filings. And Pizza Hut's footprint has stayed relatively small compared to Domino's, despite its early entry to the market. On March 24, 2020, India announced a 21-day lockdown during the coronavirus outbreak. Instead of closing its stores across the country, Domino's India offers zero-contact delivery and pickup to its customers. According to the chain's website, Domino's India has taken strategic steps to stop the spread of coronavirus by making sure company employees pass medical checks, temperature screenings for employees before entering restaurants, sanitizing protocols for equipment, bags, and delivery boxes every 4 hours, and employees must wash their hands every hour. Pizza Hut has offered similar contactless delivery, but the brand is still outnumbered by Domino's store count it has across the subcontinent. So how has Domino's won India's pizza war? The pizza market in India is valued at over $1.5 billion. That's small compared to the US market, which is worth $46.7 billion.
Still, the market is huge considering the huge population that India has.
But when Domino's and Pizza Hut started operations in India in 1995 and 1996 respectively, the pizza market was much smaller. It wasn't until July 1991 that India's leaders decided to open up its economy, marking the beginning of globalization. India removed subsidies on some items, lowered some import duties, and invited foreign competition in. With globalization came American brands like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and Domino's. When international pizza chains entered India in the 1990s, some experts say it wasn't immediately compatible with local tastes. Pizza in India strikes a delicate balance between being too foreign and not foreign enough.
They've been able to kind of walk the tightrope or the balancing act between localizing to an extent that is definitely needed to be successful in the Indian market. But again, but being able to balance that with, being perceived as, the top pizza brand in the US and globally, not just in India. That brings a lot of credibility to the brand, and is why a lot of people want to have it in comparison to others.
Domino's success is also thanks to India's huge millennial population. In general, millennials are more likely than their older counterparts to eat food from a restaurant, use technology, travel, and embrace new foods. Millennials account for about 2/3 of the population in India. And research shows that Indian millennials love eating out, spending 3 times as much on restaurant visits than other forms of entertainment. Nielsen research found that middle-income urban millennials spend roughly 10% of their food budget on eating at restaurants. That's significantly higher than the 3% spent by their Gen X counterparts. As pizza's popularity grows, Domino's has found a huge market in India. As of the end of 2019, India is Domino's second largest market after the US. It's a different story for Pizza Hut. Its business in India makes up a small fraction of Pizza Hut's overall business. The country accounts for just 1% of system sales. China, on the other hand, accounts for 17% of Pizza Hut sales. More and more local restaurants are starting to offer pizza too.
Let's say the top 10 cities in India, you would have at least 7 to 8 brands of pizza which are there, and who would offer at least who would operate at least 5 stores in that city.
But experts say no Indian chains are on the verge of becoming national chains. Most are small and privately held, so they're not competing on a national level with American chains. In India, there appears to be a lot of room for growth in the pizza industry. Domino's local franchise, Jubilant Foodworks, had sales of $510 million in fiscal year 2018, 18% higher than the previous year, according to FactSet. In fact, Jubilant Foodworks sales have seen double-digit growth for 13 out of the last 14 fiscal years. Jubilant Foodworks also runs Duncan in India and operates its own Chinese food chain. But pizza is the company's most profitable business segment by far, making up 78% of its revenue, according to FactSet. Domino's footprint in India is huge compared to its rival Pizza Hut, which has 430 restaurants, according to its website. Domino's has 1,325 stores across 282 cities as of December 31st, 2019, and it's been adding stores steadily across new cities.
They are in about 200 plus cities in India, and if I look at the potential, they have the potential of expanding to about 500 cities in the country, so that's fairly substantial.
Papa John's entered India nearly a decade and a half after its rivals Domino's and Pizza Hut had come onto the scene. By the time Papa John's expanded into India, some experts say it was already too late.
By the time Papa John's entered the Indian industry, Domino's and Pizza Hut have already established their footprints, and many of the consumers used to prefer Domino's and Pizza Hut over Papa John's because of the affordability. Papa John's was priced higher.
Papa John's tried to close the gap in 2014 by acquiring Pizza Corner, a South Indian chain. At the time of the deal, Papa John's had 15 stores through its master franchisee for the region, a company called Own Pizza and Eats. Papa John's said the acquisition of Pizza Corner would expand its presence by at least 40 restaurants. Papa John's had restaurants in 11 Indian cities, according to its Twitter account. Its stores were concentrated in the southern and western parts of the country. But some experts say it was a mistake not to branch out to more rural cities. India is a massive country in both population and size. Part of Domino's strategy to familiarize Indians with the brand was expanding to smaller cities and rural areas, not just one region. Developing a restaurant network at a national level in India is challenging due to its huge size and cultural differences between states, but Domino's made it work.
Domino's has invested heavily in rural areas and not just the cities, and I do think that is an important point as to why they have been successful, in particular in comparison to their competitors, their main competitors such as Pizza Hut and Papa John's. Having access to something like pizza is like having access to the rest of the world, feeling like you're a part of global consumer culture and that you can try something that's different. It has a tremendous amount of symbolic value, and I think Domino's has recognized that and that people are willing to kind of pay for that.
Papa John's shut its India operations in 2017, according to local media reports. Experts say Papa John's just couldn't stand out against the competition. In the US, Domino's won the Pizza Wars thanks to delivery and tech innovation. It's a similar narrative in India. India has a huge population of internet users, second only to China. That number is expected to grow, fueled by the declining cost of data and smartphones. In developing economies like India, smartphones are a cheaper option than personal computers. All this means that the Indian market is perfect for smartphone apps. Domino's franchisee, Jubilant Foodworks, says it was the first food service company to launch online and mobile ordering nationally in India. Analysts agree and say that Domino's introduced the online ordering culture. And as of January 2020, nearly 30 million people downloaded Domino's mobile ordering app.
If you look at a market like in India, internet is mostly used through mobiles. So mobile penetration is very high compared to that of a laptop or a desktop. So Domino's were very quick to launch a mobile app, and they also see a high ordering rate from the mobiles.
In 2013, online and mobile orders contributed about 17% of delivery sales at Domino's. By the end of fiscal year 2019, online ordering contributed 75% of delivery sales. Domino's has stood out in the Indian delivery market, guaranteeing customers free pizza if the delivery takes 30 minutes or longer. Domino's even tested a 20 minutes or less delivery guarantee in some Indian cities and offers all-night delivery in multiple cities. While Domino's has succeeded in delivery and with its mobile app, experts say Pizza Hut was focused more on dining in, just like it has in the US. Some consumers prefer that, but it means that Pizza Hut needs to rent large and usually more expensive real estate to offer seating.
I may have to travel to a particular point in the city just to, eat at a Pizza Hut or a Pizza Express. That at times takes away from the, the desire to go there or, just order in and you're more comfortable.
While many fast food brands look to China for growth, Domino's has struggled there. The company attributes that to the fact that cheese and bread aren't part of a traditional Chinese diet. In India, the pizza chain hasn't had that problem. Domino's tries to make sure its menu is well suited to every country it expands into. In addition to offering American staples like sausage and veggie, Domino's India serves pies topped with familiar ingredients like chicken tikka, paneer cheese, and red paprika. Chicken is the most popular meat in India, and Hindus don't eat beef, which is why chicken dominates the online menu at Domino's. It's even hyper-localized its products by region, adding menu items more suited to taste in certain states. For instance, in 2014, South Indian customers got a spicy banana pizza. Green bananas are often used in traditional South Indian dishes. Domino's localized more than its menu. It tailored each restaurant to local conditions too. In small cities where people eat out as a family, the restaurants are larger and have space for customers dining in. In another huge differentiator, Domino's offers pies at a lower price than Pizza Hut.
See, when they launched in the 1990s, not very many people wanted to have a pizza. So you had to bring them to the level of acceptability that, you come in and have a pizza or you order a pizza. Also, if you look at the kind of prices that are there, Domino's does offer pizzas which would be for, I think if I have to put it across in American dollar terms, which would be less than $1.
Middle-class consumer spending is on the rise in India. That means they'll be spending more on food and beverages, 2 times more according to World Economic Forum estimates. India is Domino's second largest market, behind only the US, and its business is growing fast there.
Okay, so that is it for our second case. So let's go straight into our discussion with the first question. So my first question to the class is, can we identify specific segments that Domino's targeted when they entered the Indian market, which made the difference between them dominating the market and the other pizza chain companies having to take somewhat of a backseat to their greatness. Yes, Godwin. Oh,
sorry, I didn't lower my hand.
Oh, okay. Lucy, please go ahead.
Yeah, they were targeting the youth, the millennials, and the Gen S, because the millennials are the people who are more interested in eating things like this.
Okay, so the millennials were one segment, and then the Gen X were also another segment, right? Okay, any other segment? So what will we call that segmentation criterion?
Age.
Age, okay. Okay, great. Any other ones? Sally?
Yeah, I think they segmented also based on income.
Okay.
They were targeting the growing middle class.
Okay.
Whose spending was also increasing.
Yeah.
So they segmented by income and then by geography as well.
Awesome.
They went into locations and then they further customized the dishes to suit the local needs.
Okay. Thank you, Sally, for that submission. Michael, any other segments you identified?
Yes, I also identify those who are technologically inclined.
Great.
As in those who, for instance, used mobile phones and had a lot of apps on their phone.
That's true.
So they also looked at that kind of segment.
That's true. Thank you for that, Michael, because the case told us that there were a total of 560 million internet users in India at the moment, and most of these people were using the internet from their mobile phones. So targeting such a group is a massive opportunity for the company to be able to make extra returns. So what are some of the specific strategies they put in place to target these segments that we have mentioned? I know Sally, you gave us a few, like modifying the menu, but what are other things that they did to make sure that they could effectively target these market segments that we have found? Ivy?
Yes, Doc. Well, what I saw, if I saw right, I realized that they had used local flavors and garnishing.
That's true.
To be able to capture the Indian sense of taste.
That's true.
Because from the Papa John's and then the Pizza Hut, they were basically focused on what they were producing. But Domino's had other things like using bananas, making some stylish, let me say, garnishing on the pizzas for the people or for their customers to have a different taste. So that's what I think they used.
That's true. They also had the chicken topping for the religious groups, which were the Hindus.
People, yes.
Consume meat, yes. So you're totally right. Thank you for that submission, Ivy. Lucy, you want to come in?
Yes, I also believe that they came up with the attitude of we have to deliver it to your doorstep, because it's not everybody that can go and eat in.
That's true.
So they use the technology to be able to deliver to the people, and they were delivering on time. When they said they would deliver in 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes. So they were able to use that as one of their advantages, so that you don't have to travel all the way to their shops to be able to buy food. And they also came up with an online app to be able to order your food.
Yeah.
And the localization of the food was not only done as a cross-border.
Yeah.
They made sure that in every region of India that they went to, they put up a setting that will suit the people there. So though they were localizing to suit India, they did other internal segmentations to strategy where they were able to suit every region that they go to.
Yeah.
Regions they like to eat in, as they said, they opened, they gave bigger rooms for people to be, bigger buildings for people to be able to come and eat in. Areas that they don't have to eat in, they make sure that they were able to deliver on time.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Lucy. I think Yvonne and Ikuya agree with you. Yvonne said they offer free pizza if they were more than 30 minutes late in delivery. And Ikuya says they also had a great delivery system for their customers and made their prices affordable for all people, both of which are very true statements. Godwin, is there something you want to add?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would want to say is they were very good with their research. Because
exactly.
you can see that they've studied the Indian people very, very well, and they know how to appeal to them. And using the strategy, let's say comparing their competition, I mean, which were very small, Pizza Hut and Pizza Express, being that they had more of a strategy of getting people to come in to sit in to eat, just like they do in America and stuff. But they harnessed, I think through research that using the mobile apps is the best thing to do, because from 17% jumping to about 70-something percent was a very massive jump, and that it goes to show that they know what the people like. They take their research quite seriously.
That's true. Very, very true. Thank you for that submission, Godwin. The power of research and the marketing intelligence system cannot be overemphasized. Mr. Samatano, please come in.
Please, before he comes in, I think the other thing that I wanted to add to it was the traffic situation in major cities in India.
Yeah.
So you can see that they are using bicycles and motorcycles, which aids them to be able to meet their target time of 20 minutes.
That's true. And traffic alone can cause someone to not even want to leave their home.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're very right. Thank you, Godwin. Pastor Matano, please go ahead.
Thanks, Doc.
Yes,
and
sir.
to add to what my mates have said,
yes, please.
During the pandemic,
yes, please,
they gave assurance to their customers that their food is healthy. The riders who send the food to them, the pizza to them, are checked before they come. The workers wash their hands every hour, and then the workers are checked with temperature guns before they enter the place. So they had the assurance that when you buy from them, you're not going to contract any disease.
Yeah, and that's a very, very important point, given the times that we are in. And I think it helped Domino's with their positioning, because then they could position themselves as not just the #1 pizza brand, but also the safest and healthiest pizza brand. That will be the first to come to mind when someone wants to eat pizza in the time of COVID. So thank you, Mr. Samatano, for emphasizing that. Salute.
I think with this one, they wanted to tell the people that they care. So anybody who cares about you, you go to the person to.
Yeah, that's true. Salute, please come in.
Yeah, I think one also key point that we might be missing out is that they delivered on the functional product.
That's true.
So functional product is people wanted pizza to eat, and usually they would want to eat it fast.
Yes.
So they were able to prepare and deliver within 20 minutes.
That's true.
That in itself, because that is what people wanted, then all the other additions would work in their way.
Yeah.
If they were not delivering as Pizza Hut or Papa John's or all the other small pizza locations, that would have impacted how their customers would have saw the product.
That's true. Very true. Thank you, Saliu. Godwin, your hand is still up. Is there something you wanted to say?
Yes, please. I'm just trying to physically imagine that the logistics of Domino's.
Yeah.
Because India is huge.
It is.
It's like a continent by itself. And saying that we deliver every pizza, it doesn't matter where you order from, within 20 minutes. Charlie, that is some serious logistics and things in place.
1,625 restaurants also help.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I think that helps them to have the access that they need to pull something like that.
Yeah.
That's a very good observation. But my question is, currently, they hold 70% of the market share. They are like the MTN of Ghana. And currently, MTN is fighting to hold on to their market share, which is the government wants to take away from them. By the way, I support MTN on this one. They have every right to hold on to what they have earned. Right?
Yeah.
But is it good for any pizza company who is competing in this market to stay? Is this segment viable at all? Because if you have a market leader who holds 70% of the market share, has no plans of slowing down, is it worth sticking to this segment?
I think it is, because just like they came from somewhere to take over, there will always be a loophole. There will always be a weakness that if you are smarter, you've got to be smarter than your competition to be able to overtake them. So it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely doable. If Nokia could go down, Pizza Hut can, Domino's can also go down.
Really? That's interesting. Yeah. Lucy, do you agree with Godwin?
Yes and no. My no is that when you watch the video, you realize that there are small shops that are coming up who are doing pizza, but they are very small, so they cannot compete.
Yeah.
And the more they are doing the Pizza Hut too is learning most of their recipes and investing more.
Yeah.
Pizza has become very, very big. For you to be able to overtake Pizza Hut, you have to be able to have all the logistics. You have to do it better.
That's true.
And it's going to be very difficult to do it better unless you have a lot of investment.
Yeah.
You come up and want to spread at the same time, but they didn't go to where they are from day one.
Yeah, that's true.
When you come,
I think, Lucy, let me
finish.
Okay, finish. Yeah.
Unless they make a little mistake in maybe food poisoning or something, then they may be, but I don't think it's something they are going to do now.
Yeah.
I just hold away like MTN is doing. It's going to be very difficult for you to come and then take over unless you have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Doc, I just saw a documentary yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking that, you see, like we're saying, technology, but we know it's a Herculean task. And if this technology has come, probably Domino's will probably take it before anybody does. But now there's technology that human beings are not making the pizza, but there's a machine, like a belt sort of thing that does the pizza from start to finish.
Yeah.
So rather than it's taking let's say if it's 5 minutes or something that human beings are doing, it's taking about half the time or something. So yeah. I definitely think
this
that
machine has been in existence for as long as I can remember. In fact, that was the starting point of frozen pizzas. I don't know who knows about frozen pizzas. They've been around for a long time.
A long time, yes.
The taste of the freshly made pizza cannot be compared in any way to the machine
at all.
Frozen one. So they have not been able to dominate the market at all. So for this machine that they are talking about, we live to see.
But this machine I'm talking about, I think it really came out during this COVID thing, like having less contact. So it's like you're a business. You just use the machine. When it comes out, you go straight into a box. You don't have any contact with the food or anything.
Okay.
So that's what they were. It was on BBC Click.
Yeah.
That's where I saw it. Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I think it's very capital intensive. So who is going to invest in that capital to
that's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
The only person who can invest into that will be Domino's because they already have the capital.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Lucy, observe protocol.
Sylvia.
Yeah. Sure. I wanted to just, touch on what Lucy said. It will be very difficult, I think, particularly for the competitors to actually even outwit them or even get to the point where they are. Because, here's the case. They've established a lot of trust amongst the population. They've studied the market and are still studying it and are actually closing the gaps as they move. They actually have touched on the hearts of the people, which is culture. Yeah. And that is one of the biggest things you can really get people with, because this is a sense of personality when it comes to where people come from, with all the things they've done, different locations, geographically, with different emphasis on the culture of the population. And of course, they position themselves also very well. They are also able to adjust as and when situations change, like the situation with COVID, to actually continue to entrench the trust amongst the population. So it's kind of going to be quite difficult for those following to be able to catch up or even outwit them.
I totally agree. They are not letting up at all.
At all.
I'm waiting to see where the loophole will come for someone to swoop in. Very, very good point, Sylvia. Salut. Salut. Salut, are you there?
It's out of coverage area.
Oh, okay.
I'm not out of coverage, Opa. I'm not out of coverage. My laptop is giving me issues, so I'll connect it with my phone.
Yes,
I was saying that for every market, there's always an opportunity for the smart investor.
Yeah.
But as to whether they would be able to make the anticipated returns that they want is also another question.
Yeah.
Now, other small companies can come in. Now, if they look at the distribution footprint, because distribution is a key asset for every organization.
That's true.
Now, if they look on the coverage map, they would see where the gaps are in terms of locations that people want pizza and they can't have it.
That's true.
So they can start setting up in those small locations, but would also have to, in terms of efficiency, have to be more efficient than what Domino's is offering. So if under normal circumstances, Domino's would give you 20 minutes, then they should be doing 15 minutes or up to 20, and they should just say under 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Then, you know, that would become an entry strategy for them. Now, as and when the business begins to grow, then they look at their customer dynamics, they look at their customer sentiments, and they look at how they can steal customers from competition. So there is potential for anybody else, because if you look at I think the cap for the market was at 1.5 billion.
Yes.
Compared to the United States, that's over 5 billion. In terms of population, India has about 2 or 3 times more than what do you call it, the United States have. And bread is a staple in India.
That's true.
So that is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
So there is the opportunity, but the business needs to sit and enter carefully, identify where the gaps are, and go in. It's a huge market.
That's true. That gap you mentioned is a very powerful one, the one on the distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that submission, Sally. Spoken like a true marketer. Godwin, you want to come in?
Yes. So I want to come in. So two points. I think that the reason why I believe that, you see, it's possible is that now when you look at the way people are getting health conscious, people have is eventually going to come out that, look, pizza, we need to rewatch it again. And if there is a company which is smart to be able to start now and gain ground before Domino's and all these people wake up to it, they have a chance. But I think the taste of the pudding is in its eating. Maybe in our 70s, when we meet, we will look back and say, we'll look at Domino's in India and see if they are still there.
Perhaps. Good one, Godwin. Yes, Mr. Samatano, please go ahead.
I think it won't be easy for the other companies to take over from Domino's in the near future, but it is possible.
Yes, it's possible
for them to do that. Like Godwin said, nobody ever thought Nokia would be out of the race. Nobody ever thought that a time will come that Americans will even depend on China for so many things.
Yeah.
It is about planning. It's about, like, and also like Salu said, knowing the gaps and taking advantages of it. Always, the leaders are, at times, I say, when you are leading, you might think you're on top of everything, so you can sleep.
That's true.
And then people will be behind you, marking you. It's just like opposition and the incumbent government.
Yeah.
They will just sit down for you to do something, then look at the loopholes and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So Domino's shouldn't sleep. If they sleep, one day they'll get up and realize that they are also struggling because maybe they are not doing all the best that there is to do.
That's true, exactly.
But because they are leading, you can see them to be the best.
Yeah.
So when somebody sees the gaps, they can just come in and then take advantage of everything, and then they'll be struggling. Because they met some people, they met companies and took over from them.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Like Lucy said, through planning and innovating. Very, very true. Thank you, Mr. Samatano, for that submission. Godwin, yes.
Yes, I think I would say that just like MTN today is facing problems with government.
Exactly.
Look, nothing is permanent. if the macro forces starts coming against you, it can be very difficult.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Because we learned from the case that it was the reduction of subsidies and the lowering of the non-tariff barriers that enabled these foreign companies to enter India in the first place. So the moment they decide that, okay, we've had enough, and they start raising those barriers again, there's no telling what can happen. So
that's true.
Point there, Godwin. Good point. All right. So that brings us to the end of our discussion on the second case. Any final words from anyone before we move on? Otherwise, we move on to our final case for the day. Okay, so let's move on to our final case for the day. This one is about Dunkin' Donuts, again in India. Now, in as much as Domino's Pizza was a success story, this particular case is not so much a success story. So we will once again break down the issues with regard to research and the STP process. But in this case, looking at where the shortcomings were. So please, I'm sharing the video now. Please let me know if you can see the video. Please, can you see it?
Dunkin' is synonymous with breakfast pretty much everywhere you go. There are more.
Please, can you see it?
Yes, please.
Yes.
And we can
see you. Okay, let's go ahead.
Dunkin' is synonymous with breakfast pretty much everywhere you go. There are more than 12,600 restaurants.
Yes, we can.
From Kuwait to Aruba. But there is one market where the company has failed to capture national attention, India. As of 2018, it's closed more than half of its stores in just over 2 years, citing a lack of profitability and operational efficiency. So what went so wrong for Dunkin' in India? To answer that, let's go back to 2012, when Dunkin' launched its first location. Dunkin' granted exclusive franchising rights to Jubilant Foodworks, the same franchisee that brought Domino's Pizza to India, one of the top restaurant brands in the country. Dunkin' entered with its typical breakfast-first strategy, and it braced for heavy traffic at the start of the day. But it didn't take long to figure out that Indians weren't all that interested in the American morning routine. The majority of Indian consumers don't prefer to grab and go their breakfast. They'd rather have a sit-down meal.
Yeah, basically when you look at donuts, so basically when Dunkin' Donuts came to India, it's regarded as a breakfast for all the Western countries or wherever the Dunkin' Donuts have their outlets. But in India, it's the consumer preferences are totally different. So here people, they generally prefer their local cuisine for their breakfast.
And it wasn't just the timing of the offering. It appeared to be the menu itself. To be fair, Dunkin' tried to localize its offerings. It had custom donuts catered to Indian taste buds, like the mango donut. It had lychee culottes. And for a brand that rarely ventures outside its core product, Dunkin' even rolled out a spicy sandwich lineup. In an effort to localize its menu, this coffee-loving brand even downplayed its beverage branch of business, which accounts for about 60% of Dunkin's sales. Instead, it marketed its food to a nation that's not exactly crazy about coffee. But it wasn't enough to help Dunkin' shake its donut-first reputation. Dunkin' was seen as more of a pastry shop, and Indians didn't want to start their day with sweet baked goods.
Donut is basically considered as a dessert, right? And a dessert which is a lot of other assortments added onto it, so it's a high-calorie assortment. And therefore, it's more like a luxury, it's more like a impulse kind of a purchase, which you make if you are celebrating, or is there a special occasion, or once in a while Indians having a sweet tooth would like to indulge in that kind of a purchase.
So Dunkin' pivoted. It pushed its operating hours later. It rolled out its Diwali donut, which touted savory flavorings like chickpea, saffron, chili. But key to Dunkin's tweaked image was actually to downplay the donut. So it tried something it hadn't done before: burgers. With burgers, Dunkin' was able to get more foot traffic in, and the non-beef lineup was designed to appeal to the country's vegetarians. But making burgers the anchor product of the brand just appeared to dilute Dunkin's image rather than help it.
They started advertising on burgers rather than donuts. I mean, when you're a global brand with donuts in your name, you cannot say that they are not donuts and they are something else, right? So that's really against the basic rule of marketing, which is focus.
In a statement to CNBC, Duncan Brand said that it finds it important to include core Duncan products alongside more regional menu items to cater to local tastes. But Duncan didn't comment on its store closures in India. Another potential misstep had nothing to do with the menu. Duncan expanded too fast, its locations were too big, and those huge retail spaces translated into higher operational costs. So when Jubilant FoodWorks announced plans to pare back more Duncan shops in 2018, it came as little surprise that its new plan was to focus on small stores and kiosks. But keep in mind, Duncan isn't alone in its struggle with the donut. Duncan's main donut rivals, Krispy Kreme and Mad Over Donuts, entered the market within a few years of one another. And at first, things were pretty great. Donuts were initially a hit when they were first introduced into the Indian market.
The young population, which was more acceptable to American tastes and culture. And so for them, it was an issue of novelty, and therefore donut market saw a surge in the Indian subcontinent. And we had Dunkin' Donuts, which entered the market at that point of time, and we all know that right from 22 stores, they reached up to 77 stores in 2017, which was the peak of Dunkin' Donuts in India.
But Agarwal said that the donut's popularity has started to stagnate, and now the donut chains of India are feeling the pressure.
The donut is struggling. It's not just Dunkin' and Krispy Kreme. There have been declining sales across donuts for quite some time. Not just in India, but if donuts were working, they would be Dunkin' Donuts, but they're now just Dunkin'. And so if it's not working here, it's certainly not working in India.
That precipitous fall in the popularity of the donut is partly to do with the more health-conscious India.
It is becoming a very health-conscious market, right? So people are moving away from sugar and salty food and looking for more healthier options. So that's one of the reasons why I feel that the sales have kind of stagnated.
But even though Indian consumers are looking for healthier foods, some dessert chains in the country aren't struggling like Dunkin'. In fact, one of Dunkin' Brand's other businesses, Baskin-Robbins, is killing it in India. Baskin-Robbins, which is franchised in India by Gratis Food, has more than 725 stores in the country and claims to be the largest ice cream chain in India. So if Baskin-Robbins and Dunkin' are two fruits from the same tree, then why is one doing so much better than the other in India? Euromonitor says it's because Baskin-Robbins focused on its signature product, ice cream. And according to a Mintel report, the ice cream industry is heating up in India. Mintel estimates that in 2021, 657.2 million liters of ice cream will be purchased in India. But donuts? Well, they're just not a favorite for the adult Indian consumer. So Dunkin's big problem in India seems to have more to do with the fact that it's failing to give Indian consumers what they're looking for, and less to do with any mistake made by either Dunkin' Brands or Jubilant FoodWorks. Take Dunkin' Brands. The company in the United States is by no means failing. The company has seen a steady growth in revenues over recent years. The Indian market isn't biased against international companies, more specifically Dunkin' Brands, because Baskin-Robbins has seen such success in India. And Jubilant FoodWorks, which franchises Dunkin' in India, also franchises Domino's Pizza, one of the most popular brands in the country. It's also not the first time an international Dunkin' franchise agreement has flopped either. Dunkin' has tried and failed to enter China twice, and in 2015, it decided to step back in a third time with a better understanding of what Chinese consumers want and an ambitious goal to open 1,400 restaurants. So will Dunkin' in India have the same story as Dunkin' in China, or will it be able to turn things around? Experts say it's certainly worth trying. With a population size second only to China, India is thought of as the last great battleground for international fast food rivals. Only about 3% of all food service establishments there are chained. In Western markets, it's over 50%. So if you're looking to capture market share in the US, you have to take it away from somebody else. But if you enter India in the right way, with the right formula, there's tremendous potential upside. And reducing store sizes is part of that formula.
For the newer stores, they have been reducing their store sizes, which is the same strategy which was being followed by Mad Over Donuts or Krispy Kreme.
The brand slashed unprofitable stores and instead started focusing on small kiosks to sell their products. And remember how they basically ignored their beverage unit when first entering the country? That's not happening anymore. They're planning to introduce more teas to their menu to cater to Indian tastes.
They're probably better off on the hot beverage focused side of it than trying to localize the menu to get away from it being donuts.
So yeah, Duncan in India has had to overcome a lot upon entering the market, and it still does. But by adding tea-based beverages to their menu and offloading unprofitable stores for kiosks, Duncan may be able to save itself in India after all.
Okay. So that is it for our final case for the day. And it's on Dunkin' Donuts. So similar to the one we discussed earlier, we are going to discuss it based on our perceptions of how they went about handling the STP process, as well as how research contributed to their success or demise in the Indian market, depending on the perspective you want to look at it from. So I throw the question to you. In terms of segmenting, did they do a good job? Irene, please come in.
Hi, Doc. I think in terms of segmenting, I don't think that they did so well from the beginning. Because, yeah, from what I heard, the Indian market is more like having breakfast as a family and being seated. Not like the grab and go. They're not like the grab and go people like the American market.
Yeah.
So they got wrong from that side too.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. Sorry, Mr. Samatano, was your hand up or it's from the previous one?
Sorry, it's from the previous one. Sorry.
Okay. Irene, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think one thing I heard was also that for them, donuts and certain pastries are more like celebratory for celebrations. So they have it on occasions like a birthday and things. Not like something I want to have lunch, so I'm going to grab a donut and a drink.
Yeah, very true. Very true, Irene. Thank you for that submission. Ivy, you want to come in?
Yes, Doc.
Yeah, please go ahead.
My little take on it was that I don't think they had proper research or investigation on the Indian culture.
I totally agree.
The little thing, even in the Indian series that we watch, you realize that there are different cultures in India. And then India is particularly known for their health consciousness, in the sense that they don't normally like to take donuts for early morning breakfast.
Yeah, but the question was, is pizza a healthy option? I don't think so.
Come again.
Also equally full of calories, or?
Yes. But you know, they have this particular bread that they make, which looks like that of pizza, but just that they don't add so many things to it.
Yeah, that's true.
But with donut, they have a problem with donut because, as Irene said, it's just for celebrations.
That's
but
true.
To have it as breakfast, for that one, I don't think it's part of Indian culture. So I'm sure they do not do much research into Indian culture to know that there are different Indians in that particular.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ivy, for that. Nadiet, isn't Nadiet? You want to come in here?
Yes, Doc. Even though much of what I wanted to say has already been said, but
please go ahead. Say it.
Okay, so we realized that they didn't really pay attention to the Indian culture, like it was said, and the lifestyle of the people. And so, unlike the previous video that we watched, Domino's really took time to understand what the Indian people really wanted, and they were even ready to customize their menu to suit them. So we see with Duncan, they weren't ready to adapt to the culture of the people, or even tailor the menu to suit what they wanted. So they offered them what they want to give them and not what the Indian people wanted. So they couldn't really succeed.
That's true. And Nadia, could it be that they actually did not know what the Indian people wanted?
I think so, because they, right from day one, they didn't really do an extensive research to really understand their consumers. So they got it all wrong from the start.
Yeah. Very, very true. Thank you, Nadia, for that submission. Godwin, you want to come in?
Yes, please. I think I will take it from this an advisory suggestion. that sometimes when a company, or let's say you're going into a market, you consult with a company, and you know them to be very successful with something that they've done. Like, for example, the Dominoes. These guys have done Dominoes. So Dunkin' Donuts will go in with the mind that, Charlie, these guys, they're going to make us successful. Right? You don't only have to look at the things that you are looking out for, but you have to look at the things that you're not looking out for. Because sometimes that is what will hurt you, right? I'm sure that their research show them that, oh, the numbers, Charlie, we have all these young people, they like sugar, they like this, they like that. But they never think that what is it that fails in India? Because if they had studied that, they would have known that the Indians like to eat together in the morning. So there's no point of you trying to put sugar outside for them to come. Right? So I think that in research, and it should be a point to all of us as marketers, that when we are looking out for things, we should also look at the things that cause failure. And we should look at the failure aspect of it too. Because if you look at success, you stand the risk of being a Dunkin' Donut. Thank you.
Exactly. Following from what you just said, I think from a marketing strategy perspective, the owners of the franchise, being Jubilant Foodworks, fell prey to the classic, I have succeeded with this one, so if I apply a similar strategy to this one, I will achieve the same level of success. Because you realize that a lot of the things they were doing with Dunkin', they started doing with Domino. Sorry, they started doing with Dunkin' as well. The localizing and the huge locations and all that. They were trying to use a similar strategy for Dunkin' without realizing that they are two different brands selling two different products and will definitely appeal to different segments.
Interesting.
Thank you for that, Godwin. Sally, please come in.
Yeah, Doc, you just said what I was going to say.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Dunkin' Donuts were just, they missed the mark.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a failure of expertise, but rather a failure of strategy.
Yes.
Because as you mentioned, it is the same Jubilant Food that bought the franchise.
Yeah.
So it means that they have an understanding of the market. They know what they are going to do, and they wanted to ride on the back of the new fad of consumerism, global consumerism that the Indian Gen X's were riding on.
Yes.
Now, to be able to do that effectively, if you are diversifying your product portfolio, you need to test the market.
That's true.
There's a model that the Harvard Business Review proposed. I mean, it's in a lot of entrepreneurial books. It's called the Business Model Canvas, where they say your customers are out there in the market. So your customers are not in your boardrooms, or they are not in the nice PowerPoint presentations and reports that you do. Your customers are out there in the market. So if you want to test the acceptability of your product, you go into the market to test it. You don't sit in your room to ride on the back of the fact that you were successful in delivering Dominoes to the Indian people. So I should be successful in delivering Dunkin' Donuts. So if they are tested with one store, possibly it would have informed their next actions in terms of even redoing the product and putting it into the market to give the Indian people actually want to take for breakfast.
That's true. Very true. Thank you, Sally, for that submission. Lucy, you want to come in?
Yes. They started well, but what they did also, I felt, was they were looking at the young people, and as the young people started growing up, as Alice said, they failed a strategy. They started becoming health conscious.
Yeah.
First, they used to like the sugary thing, but as the time goes on, the Indians started changing their attitude towards unhealthy food. So they should have also swapped.
Yeah.
You know what? They came in with how do you call it? Burgers, but they were still having the shop as donuts, so people still saw it as donuts. And if you look at the nominal income of the Indians, it's not that high. So if you have a big employed building, everybody will automatically assume that prices of your items are very high.
Yeah.
And room that they are supposed to eat in. And you know, the Indians like to grab and go to, so they didn't have any delivery aspect of it. And I think, as they said, they saw donuts as what? Dessert. So it was up to Domino's to let them know that it's not dessert. You can use it for brunch, you can use it for snack when you don't have anything in your stomach and you are not ready to eat heavy food, you can use this. So it's mainly a strategy, as Salim said, and then they were looking at the kind of age that the age grew out of it.
Yeah.
Those age group grew and then they changed.
Yeah.
That's how the whole thing is. And then when they branch into something else, they would be able to rebrand themselves.
Exactly. That's another major issue. At some point, they were all over the place, doing so many things that was so off-brand.
Yes,
so you're Dunkin' Donuts, but you're selling bagels. And these bagels come in different shapes and sizes, and rather the donuts themselves are nowhere to be found.
Some of the colors too, you know, this Indians, they are religious background. So maybe if you go and use a color of another religion and they don't have, they should also look at the colors. They will not buy. But some of them reverse some of the colors as their traditional stuff. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Very, very true. Thank you for that, Lucy. Godwin, did you have something to say?
Yes, please. I think what I'm going to say is more inferred than what is actually inside the video. I'm thinking that maybe the management style too, that it's probably top to bottom rather than bottom up. Because I'm very sure that when they came into India, the managers would complain and the staff would complain that, look, this is not like us.
Yeah.
But would the people in the headquarters and other places listen? Because a lot of the times that is where the problem is. It's not as though the workers in Dunkin' Donuts in India were Americans, because they are Indians and they would definitely know. But would they be heard?
That's
and
true.
I think that's probably is also another key factor that led them to go down this way.
That's true. That's true. Thank you very much for that submission, Godwin. So right now, my final question to the group is, Ivy, did you have something to say?
Doc, yes, please. I just wanted to find out. You know, the picture you are displaying, apart from the donut, there's this I don't know, plastic or rubber with a drink.
Yes.
It says America runs on Dunkin'.
Yes. So
I'd like to know if that was a packaging they were using in India.
No, this is a picture from the from Dunkin' Donuts in the US.
Okay. Because if that was the same thing they were using, then definitely would have also contributed to the
problem as well. I totally agree with you. Thank you, Ivy, for noticing that. So my final question to the group is, given that it has been established that it's not just Dunkin' as a donut company that is struggling, despite their own unique challenges, other companies or franchises that also sell donuts in India are struggling. In fact, we were informed in the case that donuts in general are struggling globally. So anyone who is selling donuts anywhere in the world is facing significant challenges. So right now, what are we telling Dunkin', or what are we telling Jubilant Foodworks about Dunkin'? What advice are we giving them with regard to how best to move forward? Because we are told in the case they have made some strides to solving the problem. Some of it is working, but they still have a long way to go. So what recommendations would we give them moving forward? Do we want them to pull out, or we want them to stay and then make certain specific changes?
No, they can diversify.
Michael, diversify into what?
Well, you notice that the technology for making, let's say, donuts wouldn't be so different from, other products that are doing good. For example, pizza, So if I were them, I would diversify and do something else. And then again, I would also think of making healthy donuts, if it's even possible. Yeah. And see how it will go, yes.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you, Michael. Irene?
Doc, I want Michael to clarify on his diversification, his suggestion that Dunkin' should go into pizza, something like pizza.
Yes.
I mean, the people who hold a franchise in India are the same people who brought Domino's. So I don't know how they want to compete against each other.
Good
point. making healthy donuts, it's been established that Indians are just not donuts people. So I don't know how going healthy will still attract, like entice the market to demand for their product.
Yeah, yeah, very good question. Michael, please, would you like to give a response to Irene?
Yes, I mentioned pizza, so it may not necessarily be pizza, but they could diversify into something else. That's what I meant.
Apart from the pizza or the donuts?
Yes, apart from the pizza and the donuts.
Okay, okay. Perhaps they can just be selling bread.
Can I add?
Something like that.
Can I add before somebody else is called?
Oh, you want to add on to? Okay, please do.
I think in the video they were saying that people seems to like the burger because it was heavier and it was fleshy. So I think that they can maintain the burger, because what the woman said was, though they were trying to do the burger with the people like, the name still was donuts, so people still see them as donuts.
Yes.
So they're going to be able to rebrand themselves or change the name and burger thing.
Very strategic.
They'll be able to do something.
Okay, so perhaps call themselves Duncan Burgers, a Dunkin' Donuts company or a Dunkin' subsidiary, something like that. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Lucy, for that. Tell you want to come in.
And then, Doug.
Yeah, Doug. I would ask Dunkin' Donuts to still remain in India.
Oh.
Yes.
Then how do they
But
move?
I would ask them to first of all, they need to scale back the operations. Now, profitability is determined by taking away your cost of operation from your revenues. So it's not that the business is not profitable, it's just that their cost is overwhelming. Because if your revenues are not enough to be more than your cost, then you'll be running at losses. So if they've opened with over 1,300 footprints as Domino's did, then that it's
Saliu, we can barely hear you. You're breaking up.
Saliu, are you using Airtel or something?
I think he's using space.
You haven't established a customer base. You don't go ahead to invest ahead of the returns are going to come. So they need to scale back.
Yeah. Oh, we've lost Saliu. Della, you wanted to say something?
I'll add it to it for him. He will say restrategize definitely.
Hello, Doc.
Yes, Della, please go ahead.
I think they should stay, but my little knowledge about the Indians, especially with the clients that I've been with or I've worked with, they like pepper. The Indians in general, an average Indian likes pepper. So if they can add a little bit of pepper to their donut.
Yeah, we are told from the case that they did introduce a spicy donut.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that did, because donuts and spiciness don't go together.
But the Indians like
But
pepper.
they like it. Exactly. I think the Indians, the culture of Indians also matter a lot here.
Exactly.
And I think that the point about even the beverages, the coffees and things, at some point there was something related to ginger, garlic and that kind of thing. So it's also about understanding the people.
Yeah.
And then their culture and serving them accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, that would have been my suggestion to them. Like, Duncan should stay, scale back their operations, and go back to research.
Absolutely.
Find out about who your customer is and what they are looking for. See, so Sylvia, thank you very much for adding to that. I think Saliu is back.
Back, yes.
Oh, Doug, sorry, I'm driving.
Where did you go? Where did you go?
I'm driving.
And what network are you using?
That phone was not working.
Sorry?
Are you using Spacephone or Vodafone?
Saliu, I'm also driving, but I'm not braking. You are using Airtel, just let us know. please.
Oh, you are using MTN.
I will engage in this debate. Yeah, Doc. So, I mean, as I was saying, so once they scale back, they can begin to introduce some other variations. India does a lot of good tea. So instead of coffee, they should start looking at tea. And they should go into the confectionery market. And a lot of weddings happen in India.
That's true.
So they should look at that market, and then they should tap into that market as well. So using that, what do you call it, wedding as a platform, then they can introduce their consumers to all their foods and sort of drag them into where they want to bring them. So I think they have prospects. They just need to re-strategize.
That's very true. Very, very
And
true.
then I just wanted to add, I mean, from the 2 other videos that we watched, anytime the description, in terms of revenue, they are looking at the global capitalization for these products, they combine everything in Africa. And I think the previous one, the Domino's one, the pizza market was just 3% for the whole of Africa. You know, so this goes back to the first video that we watched in terms of Africa being the new market.
Thank you for making that connection. That's why I was really upset when they were hammering so much on the technology industry, because there's so many other industries where the market holds so much promise.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for making that connection, Saliu.
Thank you.
Godwin, anything you want to add?
Yes, please. So for me, I'm looking at it from a point of where Saliu started from. With the sense that for them to reduce their overhead costs, probably they need to try and do more of online something and reduce the number of do more deliveries. But probably that would help. And also from another front, I've lost my train of thought for a second. Let me see. So the what was I going to say? Oh, it's gone. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. I'm sure it will come to you.
Yes. I've remembered. So through the whole documentary, there was nothing on them on social media or anything. Because you see, sometimes products are bad, but it depends on how you advertise it and how you make it look. Take Coca-Cola. How many of us have not complained about Coca-Cola and the amount of sugar in it, but we are still drinking it?
That's true.
It's because of how they've positioned themselves in our minds. They can probably push also into corporate social responsibility, make themselves known. Sometimes you are not a good company, but the fact that you are doing good will get people to buy more from you too. So that's why.
Very true. Point well made, Godwin. That's Matano, are you coming in?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So on that note, we've come to the end of our classroom case discussions for today. We've had a lot of healthy discussion. Our minds have been really exercised and tested today with regard to global marketing strategy. And I'm glad with the way our discussions went. We are thinking along the lines of global marketing strategists who are in to make our company succeed. So thank you very much.
Doc,
yes.
Doc, on a lighter note, I think Saliu, we should give him some doctorates for a marketing because the guy is super.
Yeah.
You can hear.
Doc, we are all students. I beg, forget this man. He wants to give me pressure.
When you want us, I think you are going to say restructure. I added it for you.
Mr. Samatano.
Doc. There's something that's bugging my mind small.
Please go ahead.
You see, they failed because Indians were not interested in donuts. Right.
You see, honorary doctorate.
Oh, is it right? Hello?
Yes, Mr. Samatano.
Good. But at times, I think you can introduce something new, but it depends on how you introduce it, and the people will like it.
I totally agree.
It's not always that, like, people don't, their taste, their culture, culture is dynamic.
Totally agree.
So if you present it well to them. Previously, we were not eating bread.
That's true.
Pano is not a Twi language or it's not any Ghanaian language. It's a Portuguese language, pan. But they brought it to us, and now we are now used to pan. Every morning we eat bread.
Yeah.
So it's about the way you present it to the people, you market it to the people. That's the whole thing.
That's true. So the marketer has a lot resting on his shoulders, huh?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samatano. That's a very important point you made. So on that note, we've come to the end of our lecture. I hope everyone had a great time because I really enjoyed myself. And
we also enjoyed it.
Yeah, we did.
Yes,
we
enjoyed
it.
Nanaya, I hope you also enjoyed it.
I'm glad you all did. So God willing, we'll meet during our next session. But before we go off, I hope everyone is doing well with their assignment. Okay, please, if you have any challenges, feel free to reach out.
Okay.
So you can give me a WhatsApp or you can give me a call or drop an email, and then whatever it is, we'll figure it out. But don't wait till the last minute before you reach out if you have challenges. Please do it early now. Okay. So on that note, I wish you all a lovely evening. May God make the rest of your weekend fruitful.
Thank you. Wish you the same.
Thank you so much.
May yours be better. May yours be better. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen. Good night.
Good night.
Adios.
La, 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 la.